Let me start by saying welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. We're super excited to have you guys here for part 2 of our Beyond Boundaries Masterclass. We'll be holding these masterclasses bi-weekly, catered to giving you guys insights on how you can develop yourself as an individual in tertiary education, as well as promoting personal growth. We as Phoenix are fully committed to students' academic success through holistic support. And part of this, we are hosting these masterclasses with amazing guest speakers where they can speak on their expertise and give you guys knowledge to better not just yourself, but also your academic journey. Our masterclass are catered towards personal development, job readiness, and also to give you guys knowledge to stand out when entering the job force and also your current academic journey. Let's push your boundaries of understanding and expand on how you can develop your current skills. Okay, so today we have an amazing guest speaker, Kaylee Faree. I'm sure you guys know who I am. If not, I'm Teho Meko. I'm one of the student advancement coordinators at Phoenix. Today we'll be having Kaylee Faree, an amazing clinical psychologist who's also co-founded Chrysalis Development and Training Solutions. Just give me a second. She is an amazing woman, one of my mentors, which I'm really proud to say as well. She's really passionate about personal growth and emotional wellness and developing others through guiding them through their introspective journey. And in addition to just making other people realize how they can become a better version of themselves. So just taking it away to Kaylee, super excited to have you and keen for you to just give us more knowledge on how we can better ourselves personally.
Awesome. Thanks, Tejo, and it's awesome to be here again and to be part of this awesome movement and to help support all the students. I think that it's a very valuable contribution that everyone has this platform. So thank you to you guys for organizing this, and I hope that everyone can learn something today. And just try to, like, the goal with today is to really try to put some practical things in place, increase your sort of self-awareness and self-knowledge of processes that, contribute to burnout. So, yeah. So today we're going to be talking about burnout, and I'm going to say thanks to Tejo she'll be hosting, she'll be running, facilitating alongside me, and I think she's got some questions for you guys, so if you want to jump in on the poll and participate, it'll be lovely. And there will be a Q&A right at the end, where I'll answer some questions, or if there's anything that's you've got that you're not sure of, or any concepts I've introduced that you need more
help. Let me
help.
just interrupt you quickly, sorry. But if you guys have any questions during the session while Kaylee's speaking, there is the activity section that has a triangle, a square, and a circle where you can add your questions and we can answer them at the end. Because if you have a question during the session while Kaylee's speaking and you're not able to actually, speak as a viewer, we want you guys to type out those questions and we can actually attend to them at the end.
Sounds wonderful. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to be talking about burnout today. And the goal of what we're going to be doing is we want to look at what is burnout. We want to look at what some of the causes of burnout are. How does burnout impact you and where does it come from? And then what can you do to prevent and cope with burnout? We're also going to be trying to do some practical things in between to help just give you some tools that you can help with this. So burnout in general, is a state of quite chronic physical and emotional exhaustion, where you're feeling really drained, you feel really exhausted, emotionally depleted, and it can often come or result in a lack of energy, a lack of motivation. And it's quite interesting because some people really struggle to differentiate between burnout and depression. In depression, obviously, there's a lot of other things connected to it, and burnout is really just that overworked exhaustion that feels like it almost can never lift. I don't know if those of you had COVID-19 And there was that post-COVID phase for a lot of people where that it just, you felt so chronically exhausted all the time. And that if I had to liken it to something, that's something that I would liken it to, where it just feels like you can do something small and you just feel exhausted by it. Other things that happen with it is this sort of sense of detachment, this feeling like you don't want to accomplish anything, you lack motivation. And it's often caused by intense and prolonged stress, and associated with work life, academics, caregiving, those type of things. So it really impacts everyone in different areas. It'll impact you as an individual, but also impacts you in different areas. So we're going to talk about that as well. So what do we want to do is look for, how do you recognize burnout? And so one of the first things you're going to look at is for some of the physical signs. So you might be chronically fatigued, which is like feeling really tired, feeling like you've got no energy, and that no matter how much you sleep, it doesn't help. You can sleep 12 hours and wake up and you still feel tired and exhausted. So it's that type of fatigue that even rest and sleep don't help with. And what that can do then is it increases, or it leads you to feeling very unproductive, and you can have a lot of difficulty performing your day-to-day tasks. So things that would normally be easy, normally be simple, like showering, or finishing a bit of work, or doing something small, going to the shop or making food. It can feel quite overwhelming and even just like impossible. Other things that can come are muscle tension and headaches, chronic sort of back and neck stiffness that sort of really starts here, maybe in your scapulas and up your neck. If you do this, you can probably feel it, or if you look down towards I call it sniffing your armpit, even though you're not really sniffing your armpit, but just that sort of turning your head and putting your head down. If you do that, you can sort of feel it starting for a lot of people. And then obviously you're feeling quite physically restricted. And there's a lot of things that can help with that, which we'll get to. But if you just start those movements, you'll start feeling it. Just rolling your shoulders like this, you can feel like sort of tension and knots in your back. Obviously headaches and migraines, like we can obviously understand why those would be uncomfortable, but it's really difficult to concentrate through, feeling frustrated, and it can make a big difference. Sleep disturbance, so that can look different in different people. It can either be insomnia, which is difficulty sleeping or falling asleep. It can be sleeping too much, which is hypersomnia. Or it can be restless sleep, where you wake up constantly, fall asleep, wake up, fall asleep. And it's like almost like hourly, where you're waking up and falling asleep. And it's that like broken sleep where you aren't sleeping properly. And obviously that affects everything. I don't know if you know, but like human beings cannot go without sleep. You can go without water, but you can't go, without food, but you can't go with sleep. You can actually develop like almost like schizophrenic symptoms, where you start seeing and hearing things that aren't there by not sleeping, and not sleeping consistently. So sleep is really important. It affects your cognitive functioning, it affects your memory, which is really important for exams, and it can really just overall affect your emotional state and your well-being. Interestingly, burnout can also affect your gastrointestinal stuff, so your stomach. Things like feeling nauseous all the time, having digestive issues, stomach aches, even like not feeling hungry. Or for some people, it's the opposite, where you feel hungry all the time and you almost like eat your feelings. And it's this deep sort of, like it can cause a lot of problems, even like constipation and diarrhea, like it can just mess all of that up. And then the other thing that burnout can do is really lowers your immune system, which causes you to get sick really often. So being much more susceptible to things like colds and flus and infections. And so like, especially over this winter period where you like feel like you're constantly sick and you get better, and then you're on antibiotics and you get better, and then you sick again, and it feels like every second or third week you're sick. And it could be related to burnout. And that obviously will affect how often you're in class, and it rolls down from there, it snowballs. From an emotional side, there's obviously feeling quite emotionally exhausted, feeling drained and overwhelmed, maybe even feeling like unable to cope with the demands. It's like intense, like there's this overwhelming pressure and like almost like there's this cloud that follows you, feeling depleted and all of that. It can also result in sort of irritability and mood swings where suddenly you're like okay and happy, and then suddenly you're just really irritable or really upset, really tearful even. You can feel quite detached, quite cynical, which is like feeling really negative or feeling very like meh about everything, just really indifferent and meh. There isn't really a proper emotion for meh. So you guys know what it feels like. Um, and then there's this sort of responsibilities and feeling like when you have to hold other people, it just everything feels like too much. And you can feel quite disconnected from work and life and studies, and it just feels like the days are ticking on and it's like robotic almost. You can also feel like feeling like quite a failure because you know you should be doing these things but you're not doing them. You feel quite inadequate or incompetent, and for some people even this feeling of and being like an imposter in this environment, like someone somewhere is going to figure out that I don't know what I'm doing and then they're just going to kick me out. Like this whole sort of feeling of like this is too like I don't know what I'm doing and someone's going to figure it out. That's imposter syndrome, right? And that can really affect your self-esteem, your self-worth, your confidence, your, you know, what you like, whether you believe you're in the right place, doing the right thing, you know. And then at the like sort of end of the spectrum, there's feeling really hopeless and desperate and in a lot of despair, feeling like there's no light at the end of the tunnel and you should just give up, and just really feeling quite depressed about it. And that can obviously impact both anxiety and depression. It can make you feel really stressed and anxious, and panic attacks can develop, or feeling really low and demotivated and depressed. Then in terms of behaviors, one of the big things that come out of burnout is this procrastination. And obviously we know procrastination doesn't make things better. And then I get these people who are like, I just work well under pressure, and inside I'm internally laughing because nobody really works well under pressure. It's just that the pressure forces you to work. You don't have a choice. But the procrastination, that putting off your tasks and responsibilities, feeling overwhelmed, you know, and actually what that does is increases your stress. It increases the last minute getting things done and panic. That increases your anxiety, and that can lead to increasing things like depression and other things as well. So I mean, we're going to talk about how we can deal with procrastination and try and avoid it, because I mean, I'm not even going to lie, self-proclaimed procrastinator here. I've been there, done that. And it was like in my last years of studying when I learned to get organized and like actually have my stuff together and figure out a plan. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so much easier. Where have you been my whole life? So hopefully we can catch you early, and it's not going to be all the way at the end of your studies. If it is, you've learned something for your future then, hopefully, because you'll take this into your working life one day and it'll help you there too. Other things that can happen behaviorally is you start to withdraw from friends, from family, even in relationships. You maybe start to isolate. And there's this like lie that happens in our head where it's like, you know what, I just need to lay and watch TV some more. I'm going to Netflix and chill by myself. There's no Netflix and chill. It's Netflix by myself and chill, or maybe eat some ice cream or something. And it's a lie that happens because that actually really does not make you feel better. And no matter how much you chill, no matter how much you are like relaxing and watching TV, I call it blooming because you're just like a flower in a pot, just chilling there and doing nothing. And no matter how much you do that, that actually doesn't help. And it doesn't decrease the burnout feeling, and it doesn't help you feel better. So we're going to talk later about how we can help and how we can decrease some of these. Obviously, if you're feeling burnt out, you don't have motivation, you don't want to leave your house, leave your room, it does can lead to you being more absent, and the effect that rolls on from that. You're missing out on work, you're falling behind, and that obviously is increasing stress, you can see the snowball, right? And it leads to you like reducing your performance in work, you declining, your academic performance goes down, you're missing out, you don't have the motivation, the energy, and you sometimes get to this point where you're like, ugh, I don't even care if I fail. And that obviously is not a great feeling. We don't want that in our lives. And then there's changes in eating habits. So you can either have more of an appetite and overeat, and especially overeat in an unhealthy way that contributes to things like weight changes, and really has negative effects on your health because you're not getting the good nutrition in, which means that everything stops. Your brain stops working, your body starts to shut down. Not great. And then there's the opposite, which is under eating, or sometimes leading to even eating disorders where people like really neglect their body. And that has similar effects in terms of your body shutting down. In women, for example, on the sort of more extreme side of the scale, you can actually stop having your period if you aren't getting nutrition. And that can lead to you having fertility issues and not having children. And it's quite dire. It has quite a big effect on your life. And then you might neglect your responsibilities, which we can see how that would be a problem. You know, failing academically, your professional responsibilities, but even responsibilities within social life, like with friends and relationships and even family. And that can obviously snowball into some really bad things in our relationship. And it can end up in like some really long-term things. You know, how do you go back to someone where you're a bit of an a-hole and then go back to them and be like, sorry, I was just burnt out. Who knew? We could be friends again. You know, it doesn't always work that way. Okay, so on a cognitive level, you know, we are looking at things like having difficulty focusing and concentrating. Sometimes you'll read something and then it's like, I have no idea what I just read, and you have to read it like 5 or 6 times before you actually, you know, understand and get like what the question or the statement is saying. Studying wise, you feel like you study and nothing goes in, and just it's like a sieve. You just like put it in and it just goes out. And you're like, but I just studied this and I should know this, and it gets frustrating. Even having difficulty sustaining attention, so sitting and listening in a lecture or class, or remembering details of things. It can really, a lot of negative self-talk. I see it a lot with imposter syndrome. I see it a lot with this frustration that comes with burnout. It's like, I should be able to do this. Like, I know that I used to be able to do this. I should be able to. Everyone else can do it, that comparison. And it really can like chip away at your self-esteem and your self-worth. And that negative self-talk, really, it's harmful to ourselves. Very bad. And then it can really affect your decision making, your problem solving, and your judgment. So you can end up making some silly mistakes that could have been avoided, really. And that's both personally and in your work, you know. So like work wise, you can make silly mistakes, but then like making some really poor decisions where you end up in situations you don't want to be in. And then you stop and you're like, what did I get here? You know, and we don't want that. All right. So what causes burnout? Where does it come from? And, you know, what can we work with? What can we, and you know, control and help with? And what just really is what it is, you know? So one of the factors, obviously, is academic pressure. I think that's huge. And unfortunately, that's one of the things that we can't really change and control. What we can change and control is how we work with that academic pressure, how prepared we are, how much we get ourselves ahead of the curve. And then having sort of really high expectations about like what's okay. I had someone in my office and we were talking about their expectations. They were like, yo, I really did poorly in that last assignment. And I was like, really? What happened? What did you get? And they were like, yo, I got 80. I was like, whoa, where are expectations here? Like what's good and what's, you know, what's poor? So, I mean, I think having high standards is very important. But sometimes we have really high standards for things that don't matter. So I've had conversations with people where they like put so much emphasis and pressure on this one little assignment. And when we look at it, it's worth like 0.3 of the entire mark. And then the projects that are worth like 30%, they're not putting as much effort and thought into. And so it's really about being mindful about where you're going to put your emphasis and your thought. Other things are personal factors, you know, your lack of sleep, like we spoke about. Your brain can literally start, you know, turning on itself. There's feelings of needing to be perfect, needing to get it right every time, and that can put a lot of pressure on yourselves. And then poor time management, you know, not being able to be aware of and think about, you know, what's coming up and plan properly. And then social factors, you know, maybe you've got a bit of lack of support from friends and family, or maybe they put pressure on you yourself. You You know, a lot of families have high expectations themselves, and we take that on into ourselves, and then we feel like we have to make them proud and we can't disappoint. And then peer pressure can also play a big role. You know, like you've got this to do, but then your friends are like, come on, like, let's go do this, and come on. And you know that you should be doing that work, and then you end up going out and you come back and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't touch that now. And then everything just snowballs, right? Okay, so I want to teach you this tool that I have. I personally love it. I find it incredibly helpful. Grab a pen and paper if you don't have one quickly. I'm going to give you a second. And those of you who have got a pen and paper, what I want you to do is to draw a big circle and then a little circle inside. Don't make it too small because you're going to write in it. So a small and a medium circle, let's call it. So this will be a small circle. This will be a medium circle. Something like this. All right. So what we're going to do is I want you, before we get started, I want you to just, on the back of your page or somewhere, I just want you to write down a handful of things that you are stressed, anxious, or worried about. Okay? Anything that's on your mind that's got you feeling anxious or stressed, just put them all down on paper. I'm going to give you 40 seconds. Okay, hopefully you got about 3. Okay, so pick one. You're going to work with this one. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the thing and we're going to say, what is it that I can do or change about this thing or this situation? So I'm going to, let's say you've got an exam coming up. I'm going to just use that as an example. So you can use your work on it on your own example, or you can run with my example and we can think it through. So I've got this exam coming up. It's making me hella stressed. Okay. So what can I do or change? You're going to have your inside circle and your outside circle. Your inside circle is your can circle, and your outside circle is your can't circle. Your inside circle are the things that I can do and change, and your outside circle are the things I can't do and change. So for example, can you change the questions that are on the exam? I'm hoping you said no. If you did, I'm very interested as to how. If you think you can, I'm very interested. You might know things that the rest of us don't. But if you can't change that, that's going to go in your outside circle, right? Can you change how much time you have to study before the exam comes? No, you have X amount of days. That's going in your outside circle. Can you change that, whether the person who marks gives you the marks? No, you put it in the outside circle. Can you change whether your lecturer, your professor is a bit of a meanie? No, you can't. So you put that in your outside circle. But what can you do about it? Okay, you can go and find the chapters that you need to study. Put that in there. Now, the trick with your inside circle is it needs to be as small and manageable as possible. Like, you've got to read this and go, I can do that. That's nothing. So if you say study all the chapters, like, that's not gonna, you're gonna be like, what? I can't do that. So you need to make it smaller, and then you got to make it as small as you need to so that it feels like nothing. All right. So if you say study chapter 1 and that still feels too big, you say study page 1, study page 2. If that still feels too big, then study paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and you just get them all down, right? And you know what you got to study, and you go like, oh, I can sit down and study a paragraph. That's not going to be a big deal for me. Put it down. Okay, and you make it as small as possible. Maybe you can go find past papers and give it some practice. Maybe you've got some friends who are doing the same thing and you guys can work together, where you prepare answers for the questions and you study together, or you test each other, or you create a mock paper for each other and you share it, and you do theirs and they do yours, and you see how you end up. Okay, so you can see all the things that fall into your can circle. If there's any questions about this, please let me know later. Once that's filled in, remember, as small and manageable as possible. Essentially, your inside circle becomes your go and do circle. In theory, you have a to-do list, and all you go and you tick them off one by one and you get them done. Your outside circle is your know and let go circle. All right? There's nothing you can do about it. You can't change it. So when your brain starts going, oh my word, these questions, freaking out, you go, whoa, brain. That's in my outside circle. I can't do anything about you. So I'm going to park you. and I'm going to focus on my inside circle. I'm going to go and do the things that I can do and change. Okay. What often happens, majority of people get stuck in this can circle and they go round and round and round. I call it the rocking chair circle. It keeps you very busy, but it gets you nowhere. Okay, so we want to refocus into that can circle that's going to help us to get somewhere in life. Okay, because otherwise you sit there and you just go in circles. And I promise you, if you take that example and you're going to apply it and you look at those problems that you've got written down there, and that one you were working on, chances are you have been running around in that can circle, going in circles over and over again, worrying and stressing about the things that you can't change. And then you refocus, you're just going to feel a bit of a feeling. Okay. Awesome. So what does burnout do? How does it affect us? So in terms of your academics, you might see a missing of deadlines. It's going to affect your grades. It's going to affect sort of your interaction and your how often you're in class and whether you're actually getting somewhere with your academics. In mental health, it can increase your anxiety. It can risk you for depression and sometimes worse things than that. And then physically, we obviously have a weakened immune system. You possibly have chronic illnesses. And then obviously all the other things that I said, you know, your stomach issues, your headaches, your migraines, and that list goes on. All right. So what are we going to do? Hope you got a pen and paper. Jot these down. That's really going to help. The thing about burnout is there's not one big thing that you can do. It's a lot of little things that are going to add up to that big thing. Okay. So first and foremost is your time management. Okay, you're going to try and create some sort of schedule that you're going to stick to, prioritize your tasks, do your circle and focus on that inside circle. Me personally, you've got to find the thing that works for you. For me, a study schedule just didn't work. I mean, I spent so much time. I would make my little blocks: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, this color for this subject, and then I'm going to do this one. I'm going to study this, and never got to it. I'd be like Thursday, 2 weeks later, and I'm still on Tuesday and I haven't finished the work. And so you've got to find what works for you. Study schedules did not work for me. Circle works for me really nicely. And also looking at how you study. Okay, so for example, my brain, if I sit and I read a book and I just listen and my brain checks out and suddenly I'm looking and thinking about, I can't do that. I need to use my body. So what I do is I have these sliding doors or I have big window and I take a whiteboard marker and I write on the window everything I need to remember, draw my mind maps, do everything. And then I wipe it off and I start again. And that's how I study. That helped me a lot. But you've got to find a strategy that works for you, okay? Some people, I know Tsecho and I have spoken about this before. Tsecho listens, she listens really well. Sorry, just sorry. You know, for Tsecho, she would record voice notes of herself and then listen to it and listen to her academic material. And that she found really helpful. So you got to really find what works for your brain because everyone is different. Next, self-care. This is so important. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to go sip on a margarita and I'm caring for myself. That's not the self-care I'm talking about. It's thinking about, you know, exercise, and exercise is so good for you. And I know we hear this, the endorphins and all those fun things, but exercising and outdoors is something that those two things are really, really helpful. Getting good exercise, it doesn't have to be like you're in the gym exercising all the time. Just a walk, you know, just a little bit of a jog or a walk is fine. If you're close to a park or a lake or a river or the ocean even, that's even better, because there's this scientific thing that really happens. When you're stressed, you emit something like called positive ions. You can Google this. It's a very real thing. So you emit these positive ions, and when you go into nature, especially things like rivers and water sources and mountains and winds and trees, they emit negative ions. And when positive and negative come together, they neutralize each other. So that really, really helps if you're outdoors in nature. Other things, focusing on what nutrition you're putting in to help your brain, help your body, and getting adequate sleep, things like that. Stress management, you know, we can look at mindfulness, relaxation techniques, getting help, you know, therapy, talking to friends and family, attending workshops like this where you learn and you get more skills. It's wonderful. Learning to say no, setting boundaries, big one. Figuring out what you need to do to manage your workload and engaging in things that are going to be helpful to your process. You know, going out, getting drunk, and then having a hangover the next day doesn't help with studying, you know? So thinking about what's mindfully helpful to you. Am I saying don't see your friends? Hell no. You need to socialize. You need to enjoy that happiness, laughing, engaging. Great. Hobbies, any relaxation techniques, wonderful things. So I'm going to teach you a little relaxation technique. It's a very quick one. It's something you can do absolutely anywhere. I have a few in my pocket, but I think we only have time for one. So if you take a second for me and just get comfortable in your chair or on your floor or wherever you're sitting, your bed, whatever it is, as long as you can hear me, you don't have to see me. All right. So we're going to use this concept of a square. And the nice thing about this exercise is you only need your breath. You don't need anything else. So what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in through your nose. And the trick here is you're going to breathe all the way down to your stomach. So if you put your hands just below your belly button, you should, when you breathe, feel your hand going out and in. If it's not doing that, you're not breathing deep enough. So because our lungs run all the way down here, if you're filling your lungs properly, that hand should move. Okay, so you're going to breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds. You're then going to hold that breath for 4 seconds. So you see the up, the in of the square, the across of the square. Now, in that hold, it's an active hold. So you're not just sitting there going da 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 da. What you're going to do while you're holding is you're going to relax. You're going to relax your muscles in your neck. You're going to relax the muscles in your shoulder. Feel yourself undoing. Okay, because we often sit like this and we hold it all up. So just feel yourself relaxing everything down. And then we're going to breathe out through our mouth. And then we're going to do it again. So it's in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, and then we're going to do it 4 times. You guessed it, right? The reason about this is that a square, that's how I like to remember, I'm a very visual person. A square has 4 sides, 4 corners for everything. So that's why I call it a breathing square. Okay, so everyone just take a second, take a breath, close your eyes, and we're going to do it. So you just have to listen to my voice and see how you feel. All right, so breathe all your air out and breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Hold that breath, relax your shoulders, and breathe out through your mouth. 2, 3, 4. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Hold and relax. Undo those muscles and breathe it out. 3, 4. Breathing in through your nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold. Just feel all the tension or any stress. Just feel it pushing down towards the floor and releasing out of your body. And breathe out through your mouth. 2, 3, 4. Last breath in. 2, 3, 4. We're going to hold. Just notice anywhere in your body that feels a little bit of tension and just let it go. And release that breath through your mouth. 2, 3, 4. All right, so you can open up your eyes and just notice the difference in your body. Notice how you feel. Notice if it's shifted. I tend to measure my feelings of stress between 0 and 10 and then do the square and see how I feel if it's dropped down. Okay, so I think that I'm gonna pass to Tejo. I know that I ran a little bit over time, but it's okay.
Oh, wait. No stress, Kaylee. Thank you so much for giving us so much insight. I know doing the breathing exercise, I kind of have the flu right now, so it was a bit like hold for two. um, but we move.
That's a very good point, though. Some people you need to start with 2 or 3 because your lungs aren't used to breathing so deeply. Because in life, most of us breathe up here, we breathe like, and then obviously that leads to more stress. So it might be something we got to build that almost that fitness up to getting to form.
Exactly. But I think like looking at those exercises, I know I've used like the circle exercise for myself and gotten a bit irritated because I know sometimes I can't get out of the can't, but I'm like, but can't I change it? Is it not possible? But if you can't, you can't. But I think it's important that we take what we've learned, especially in regards to, our academics and even in our personal lives, how burnout isn't just like, okay, I need to remain in a state where I can perform academically, but being able to be present in all spheres of your life. And I think also if you are looking for like resources as well in terms of you're feeling stressed out or you're wanting to talk to someone, I hope you guys know that there are resources on each respective campus. I know that not everyone is aware that they actually can get a free session with a psychologist on campus. It is a matter of going to admin or your student affairs or even SRC and asking them like, hi, I'm looking for assistance with some emotional issues that I'm facing. But also if you enjoyed like seeing Kaylee, she also has her own therapeutic solutions as well. That's her details there if you want to take them down or even email her. You can also do that and have a session with her. And I hope you guys enjoyed this session. We are going to kick off with a Q&A.
So before we jump to the Q&A, can I just add that we can also, if you've got medical aid can help you pay for some of your sessions. But in some of the questions that were answered and were asked, that you can also find that assistance, like how do I know what studying is going to help my brain, that you can definitely get by making an appointment with one of the psychologists on campus, because they're all trained in trying to help you understand your brain.
100%. 100%. And actually, one of the questions here, which kind of touches on like something you brought up specifically, imposter syndrome. One of the students said, I think I suffer from imposter syndrome, constantly feeling and thinking I don't deserve good things every time they happen to me. How can I deal with that?
It's a lovely question. And I think it's quite a complex answer. For me, something that's really important is trying to understand where that feeling of imposter syndrome comes from. And often it comes from the most surprising places. And if you sometimes find that thread and pull it in your life, you find that it goes sometimes all the way, sometimes back to childhood, and sometimes through expectations of others. And I think it's really important to address it in the now of like, how do I address those thoughts that keep coming and like circling and telling me I'm not good enough, but also how do you go down to the source of where it came from so you can work on that and heal that so that it doesn't keep repeating in different situations.
100%. And I think also like something that's important is knowing that when you go into a new space, you're always going to question yourself, and feel like, I know for me, I sometimes struggle with maybe I need to prove myself, but there's a reason why you've been put into that space, and looking at what you can do versus what you can't do as well. I know this is what I'm good at. I know this is what I can do, but also looking at like, okay, I might not be able to do this, but it's something I can work on.
I can learn.
And I mean, yeah.
Majority of the people here are students, and like you're there to learn, so you're not expected to know everything. You shouldn't at this stage. So it's about opening yourself up to not needing to be perfect, but rather to be open to learning what you don't know. Because if you're needing to be perfect, then you're constantly needing to hide and not make mistakes. And through mistakes that we learn, and by watching and listening. And if you're needing to be perfect, it's almost like this wall up, so you can't actually get to that learning. And so being able to come to terms with the fact that there is no such thing as perfection, actually, and it's all a fallacy, because there is literally no one in the world that's ever been perfect.
That's so hectic. But that is true. Someone here commented, I'm so glad I tuned in this session. Just outside the topic of burnout in terms of studies, I've recently been in a relationship where I think my partner was suffering from this. And then, yeah, looked like you wanted to comment, Haley.
I think it's really awesome that you're able to help identify this in people, and maybe it would be helpful to point them towards some of the resources that we've identified today. And I think being able to have these like really open and deep conversations about the things that are really happening in our life. Mm-hmm. And it may not be a case of walking up and be like, you have a problem and I need to teach you about this. It's like, I learned this really interesting thing today in this, in this thing. It was about burnout, and like I was so surprised at some of the things, like I noticed this, and this, and sometimes that just like can be at the light bulb that someone else needs.
That's true. And then another question is, how do I stop myself from focusing on the can't circle?
Ooh, love that. It really is like a practice that you have to put into place. And for me, what works, and like I said, everyone's brain's different, so you've got to refocus, is when I see the can't circle, at first it's really difficult, but you'll notice you go, oh, wait, that's my can't circle, can't do that. And what I do is I consciously make myself focus on the can. So at the beginning, it was really tough for me because it's like, suddenly that's, and then you would catch yourself later and you're like, oh my word, I've been stuck in the can't circle. And then sometimes at the beginning it was retrospective. But as I got more like used to it, and as I worked harder at it and I used it more consistently, I'd literally go, you're in my can't circle. And I would actually move from drawing them out on paper to being able to do it in my head. And I'd be sitting in a situation, I'd be like, in my head, I'm doing can't circles, and you're in there. Okay, let's go. And it's almost like in my head, I'm doing and break, go team, and I just refocus myself in there.
100%. And I think also like realizing that there's literally nothing you can do about it. Like, it's like you're gonna stand there and be stuck in the mud, and trying to move, you're just gonna get further in the mud.
Like that sinking sand where suddenly you're up here and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting deeper.
Exactly. I think this question I can kind of answer, but I think you can also add your input. It says, how do I find what works for me when I study? And honestly, what I would say is like trial and error. There isn't, I wish I could tell you, like, if you read like this, then this is your type of way of studying. But it's actually taking your content and actually learning it in different ways and seeing what works for you. Like, in high school, what worked for me was taking notes, like writing down a bunch of notes and reading those notes out over and over and over and over and over again until I figured it out. But when I was in varsity, that didn't work for me anymore. And I was confused, like, this is what I used to study when I was in high school, but now I can't do that anymore, and I had to figure out a different way of studying, which was really difficult, because I also learned that sometimes it's easier for me to just like record what I'm saying and listen to it, like Kaylee said as well, but also to actually see and fully like understand it and not just be like, okay, I'm studying it. Because I realized that in high school I was actually just learning it for the test and then forgetting about it,
like a pirate fashion learning.
Exactly. But I realized like that doesn't work for me in a space where I actually want to make this my profession. I actually want to eventually make this something for the rest of my life. I can't be parrot learning and then when it comes out in the test when I haven't learned it, it's like, well, why is this here? I didn't learn this. So, yeah, I think it really is a trial and error situation when it comes to studying. But, yeah, you can add your 2 cents there.
I mean, I do agree. I think what's helpful is get on the internet, do some research to find different options, and then tailor make them to yourself. I worked with someone where they also needed to move their body, and so they would walk around in the garden. I worked with someone else where it had to do with sound, so they would listen to a different song over and over again depending on the subject they were studying, and they studied to that subject with that song, and then when they were in the exam they would sing the song in their head and they would recall everything. Someone else was all about colors, so they used specific colors for specific like subjects, and that helped them to remember it. For me, I had to write things out, and I went through so much paper, so many exam pads, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm killing trees. And that's when I found the sliding door, So if you've got to find out for yourself and just thinking back in general, you can see what are things that you remember. Is it something that you've read? Is it something you heard in class? Like some people remember more because they were in lectures and heard it from the teacher, and that helped them to remember more. So, and I do think overall, though, it does come down to reinforcement. Like you've got to do it more than once. You can't just read something and expect you to learn, like know it. You've got to go over and over again. So you've got to make sure you have enough time that you can reinforce that knowledge more than once.
And then another question is, how can I deal with varsity stress? How can I control it and balance everything? Yo, that's hectic.
Yeah,
it's a good question.
Great question. I think it is very busy, and there's a lot of balls in the air. And so for me, it's about sitting with your circles, prioritizing the balls per se, and getting control in a sense of staying on top. Something that really helped me was when I got a deadline, I started working on it immediately. I didn't be like, oh, it's only due in October, I'll start at the end of September. I started immediately because the deadlines keep rolling in. So I started on that, did most of it, parked it, and then end of September brought it back in, finished it off, and then carried on. And that sort of consistent work is what helped me get through. Scheduling good breaks, making sure you have enough time off in between, that you're not just grafting all the time and then not having breaks. So if you can graft really hard, like Monday to Friday or Monday to Wednesday, have a break on Wednesday, Tuesday to Saturday, have a break on Sunday, that sort of concept really creates consistency, and that consistency creates balance. And, being able to set small achievable goals. Don't be like, I need to do this mountain of work, like it is with your circles. I just have to do this. When I finish this, I can do this. And then if that's finished, then I can celebrate, and then the last thing is to celebrate the small wins. We sit and we're like, oh, we're waiting for graduation or this or that. And when I say celebrate, I'm like, go buy yourself an ice cream. Not like a huge, massive brawl out and then you can't work like consistently from that point. Find a positive way to celebrate yourself and to celebrate the things that you do really well. Like I worked damn hard on that, and like I submitted my assignment on time. Like I'm gonna celebrate that, and it doesn't matter what the mark is. If you get a good mark, celebrate that too,
100%. And sometimes celebrating can be watching your favorite TV show. Well, that's for me. I don't know about other people. I really like TV. So the last one isn't really a question, Kaylee, but this is the last question that is for you. Out of topic, Kaylee, may you please share your lip color? It looks so good on you. I want to try it.
Oh, thank you. I will have to go and look for the lip color because I actually don't know what it is, but it is the Maybelline. It's a square one, and they stay on. So
is it the matte one?
In my hand and they don't come up. No, it's Maybelline. And it's the, I don't have it here. Yeah, sorry, it's not with me, but it's a square Maybelline with a white lid and then the colors at the bottom. And it's I can get it to Tejo. I don't know if whoever it is can make contact with Tejo, and she can then let you know if you want.
If it's really an emergency, you can email me. I don't know. But Kaylee, do let me know. I might steal it from myself.
They've got some great colors. There's awesome bright orange and a bright pink and purple that I wear on occasion. It's lovely.
That is lacquer stuff. Lacquer stuff. I just want to say, one, thank you so much, Kaylee, for being here today. It really, really is appreciated. I think we got to learn a lot. And just looking at especially because burnout is something that recently has been brought up in many different ways. And I think it's important for us to know what exactly that is and what it looks like. And if actually maybe I might be experiencing burnout or someone I know might be experiencing burnout, and how can I prevent that? And also I just want to say a big thank you to the students that are here today. Thank you guys for coming on and asking the questions that you did, asking about Kaylee's lip combo. We were all doing it. It's okay. And guys, I hope you have a great, great Friday. Kaylee, I hope you have an amazing Friday. I'm going to have some ACC quickly.
Look after yourself. Some self-care is important.
I will try. But thank you guys so much. Thank you for being part of part 2. If you guys have any more questions, please do email me or email our support team, and then we can also just get in touch as well. We will be sending out a post webinar comms for part 1 and part 2 next week. So just keep a lookout for that. So you guys have access to this recording, also the slides as well. And then you're also actually able to, if you wanting to refer back to something or wanting to, make sure like, okay, how can I use these tips? What are prevention strategies that Kaylee outlined? Then you guys can actually see those things and actually go through it as well.
And share them. I mean, the more we can help, the better.
Exactly.
And just to say, Tejo, I've seen a couple of people trying to raise their hand. Unfortunately, we don't have that function. So send your questions to Tejo and we can help where we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kaylee. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great Friday. Take care of yourselves. I know people like to go and have fun on Friday. Don't have too much fun.
Balance.
Bye.
Bye.